Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another episode of Spoiler Sundays. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the new news and spoilers that we just got over in Japan and, well, talk about them. So as far as the news portion, we actually do have some information in regards to BT13, which is going to be called Versus Royal Knights, and it's going to be the set that comes out after the reprint set. The set breakdown isn't anything different compared to any other BT set, but we do have some different talking points as far as what the set is actually going to contain. So the first point is all 13 Royal Knights are going to be featured in the set, which should be obvious considering the set's name is Versus Royal Knights. But the fact that we did just get all 13 Royal Knights as of EX3 sprinkled throughout all of the previous sets will be pretty interesting to see how these new versions of the cards will interact with their old counterparts, or if they're going to be doing their own new thing. Then the second point is Yggdrasil will make a debut. So Yggdrasil isn't necessarily a Digimon, considering it is the ruler of the 13 Royal Knights. We don't know how this card is actually going to be implemented. Whether it's going to be a digitama or tamer is to be determined, but I'm guessing it's going to have some way to interact and play around with all 13 Royal Knights. Then on top of that, the third point that we have is characters from Digimon Savers, which is Season 5 of the anime, will be featured. This is pretty decent considering some of the characters have been getting more support within the recent sets, on top of the fact that anime-wise and lore-wise, they did face off against the Royal Knights. So it makes sense for them to be the premier sub-theme in order to support the set. So as far as more information that we got in regards to BT13, all 13 Royal Knights will receive an alt art, which should be no surprise. Tamers and Burst Mode cards have been confirmed, so just more cards, and the fact that Burst Modes is something that we've been waiting for is pretty nice. Then on top of that, we do have confirmation that there will be an update pack in BT13 as an additional box topper. And this should be similar to how the update pack from BT9 was. So it's just more promos that are going to be injected to be able to try to help flesh out and support cards from the set. What those are and how important they'll be is to be determined, but more of those are on the way. So that's all the information we have in terms of BT13, which it's shaping up to be a pretty exciting set thematically. But as far as spoilers go, the first card on the docket is going to be Siriusmon. So Siriusmon is the first card that we get spoiled from the reprint set. The reprint set, again, isn't going to have a whole lot of new cards, and it's going to be centered around ghost games. So the fact that we just saw a promo version of Siriusmon, and now he's getting a full iteration inside of the reprint set is really, really nice to see. So he's going to be a red level 6 Digimon with very average stats. He could Digivolve for 5 on top of a card with Gaommon in its text for 3. So there's that alternate Digivolution condition, which is really weird considering Gaossmon is already a red level 5 Digimon. So maybe Gaossmon is going to be getting a new iteration in different colors inside of the set. Who's to say? But regardless, this card has two pretty decent abilities. He has a nice when Digivolving ability where we get to place a Digimon card with Gaommon in its text from our hand to the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution source, and then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with DP equal to or less than this Digimon's DP. So this is just going to shove our Gaommon cards, which we know Gaommons want to be shoved underneath our main stack in order to make our main stack as powerful as we possibly can based on the old Gaossmon that we have to share its abilities with the higher level. But regardless, it's just your stereotypical deletion based ability that's also adding to its inheritable sources. Then on top of that, it feeds into his second ability, where during your turn once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, namely off of his when Digivolving ability, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon. So this is just allowing us to be pretty aggressive with the card. So it seems like based on the old cards that we have, we're going to be swinging with our large Gaossmon, and then we're going to Digivolve into our Siriusmon to be able to delete the opponent's Digimon, add to his inheritable sources, and unsuspend him to be able to make a follow-up attack, which already is looking to be a pretty decent game plan. But as far as cards from EX4, we did get 23 new cards to talk about. So first up, we're going to be leading off with a new version of Zed or Zeke Garurumon. So this is going to be the level 6 to the Gaiomon line that we saw last week, and he's actually a pretty decent Digimon, where when we Digivolve up into him, we get to return one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon back into their hand, your stereotypical bounce. Then, if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, we get to return one of their Digimon that's level 6 or greater back into their hand, so a double bounce attached to this card for the opponent just literally having cards in their hand is pretty decent of a removal ability. Then he has a nice secondary ability that could feed off of his first ability, where during all turns, once per turn, when an opponent's hand size increases by a card effect, so whether that's them drawing by their own card effects or you bouncing Digimon back into their hand, it's all adding to their hand count to be able to get this effect, where if you control a tamer, you get to return one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon back to their hand, which is pretty okay in terms of recursive removal that could trigger during the opponent's turn. Then we did get an option for him in the form of Full Metal Blaze. So this is an 8-costed blue option where we get to return 2 of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon back into their hand. Then if the opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, we can return one of the opponent's level 6 or higher Digimon to the bottom of their deck. And its security ability activates its main, making it a pretty decent security threat to think about playing around with. Then, because Garurumon got a new option card to play around with, of course, Greymon has to have one as well, in the form of Trident Gaia. So this is a red 8-costed option where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. Then, if that Digimon had 13k or more DP that was deleted by this effect, we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack. And then to round out what we've been seeing with the whole Alter S line, we did get an option for that line in the form of Golden Beastblade and Crimson Dragon Blast. So this is a 3-costed 2-color option. The 2 colors is going to be blue and red, and it has the main ability to activate one of the following effects. So if we control a Crest Garurumon, then one of our Agumon or Greymons can Digivolve into a Blitz Greymon from our hand by paying its Digivolution cost and ignoring its Digivolution conditions. Then the second part is doing the exact same with Blitz Greymon for our Garurumons. So it's just a card trying to shore up the deck's big weakness and flaw, which is just trying to form this really interesting evolution chain in order to climb our stages as effectively as we possibly can. So the fact that this just lets us use our Mega to Digivolve our other Digimon, no matter what stage, into the Mega to be able to then DNA is just pretty decent. Then its security ability states that we get to play a Gabumon or Agumon card from our hand or trash without paying its cost, then add this card into our hand, just allows the deck to try to be as consistent as it possibly can. Next, we have a new version of Pekmon. So Pekmon is going to be a purple Digitama this time around, and it has the nice inheritable skill where on delete, if this Digimon was deleted outside of battle, then we get to gain 1 memory. So this is going to act very similar to the Gaiomon that we saw all the way back in BT5 in purple, where it's just going to add some memory generation when our Digimon is getting deleted, which is probably going to support whatever purple is going to be supporting inside of this set. Which I guess purple is going to be supporting the Falcomon line because we have a new version of Falcomon. So this new version of Falcomon has an on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add a purple Digimon with either Ravenmon in its name or Bird/Avian in its traits, and we get to add one of the tamer from among them into our hand, and then return the rest to the bottom of our deck in any order. Then its inheritable skill is another on delete ability similar to Pekmon's, where it triggers when the Digimon is going to be deleted outside of battle, except this time instead of gaining memory, the opponent is going to be discarding 1 card from their hand, which is pretty decent at trying to disrupt the opponent's game plan. Next up, we have Pekmon. So Pekmon is going to continue the support with this whole evolution line, where it's a when digivolving ability, where if we don't have the designated tamer in play, then we get to play one from our hand for free, which is pretty decent because having the ability to set up our tamer just makes our tamers way more playable, and the fact that we are generally supposed to hard play our Falcomon to search and then digivolve into Pekmon to then play the card we just searched is pretty decent of a combo play and strategy. Then he has an inheritable ability, again similar to the others, where its condition to trigger the ability is based on if the Digimon was deleted outside of battle, where the opponent trashes one card from their hand, like we just saw with Falcomon. So when we use this in combination with the other cards in our stack, it's going to be forming a pretty decent disruptive gameplay style. Next up, we have Chromon. So Chromon is going to be the level 5 for this evolution line, and he's a pretty decent card to try to help get up into our level 6 as easily as we possibly can, because he has a nice when attacking ability where if we have a purple tamer in play, which ideally we should, especially if we just digivolved off of our Pekmon, then that set up the tamer for us to be able to utilize this ability, where we then get to digivolve this Digimon into a Ravenmon from our hand by paying its digivolution cost. So this just allows us to easily tempo into our level 6 and be able to use our level 6 when it's attacking. Then the inheritable of on delete is similar to all of the others with its trigger condition, where if this Digimon was deleted outside of battle, then we get to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon for some decent removal. And then the level 6 of this evolution line is going to be, well, Ravenmon. So Ravenmon, stat-wise, isn't doing anything special for a purple level 6, but it does have the jamming ability, which is pretty decent and important considering a lot of these inheritable abilities on delete effects want to be triggered when it's not being deleted in battle, which jamming prevents it from being deleted in battle when it's attacking the opponent's security, making it so that these abilities are easier for us to trigger and use. Then it has the nice end of attack ability, which is pretty good because we're supposed to digivolve it on our level 5 mid-swing. By deleting this Digimon with a card with an avian or bird in one of its traits in its Digivolution source, we could play a Ravenmon from our trash at the end of the opponent's next turn without paying its cost. So we're supposed to go all the way up the line, attack with our level 5, digivolve into our level 6, then after that attack succeeds, we're going to be able to use the end of attack ability to replay another Ravenmon and delete the current one to then trigger all of the on delete abilities because it deleted itself through a card effect and not through battle. So that's already a pretty decent gameplay loop that it wants to have us do, and he even has an on delete ability himself to further disrupt the opponent, where if the opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, then your opponent trashes one card from their hand. Then if the opponent has 7 or less cards in their hand, your opponent adds one card from the top of the opponent's security stack to their hand. So it's just trying to get rid of cards from their hand and burn the opponent's security alternatively, making it a pretty interesting card to be using. And then we did get the tamer to support the deck. So this is going to be a 4-costed memory fixing tamer with the ability where during all turns, when one of your purple Digimon with Ravenmon in its name or with the avian or bird in its traits gets deleted, which it wants to delete itself, then we get to suspend this tamer to draw one card, and if the Digimon was deleted by a card effect, then we also get to gain one memory for some decent resource generation for this deck. And then we did get an option card for this deck to be playing around with in the form of Celestial Blade. So Celestial Blade is a 4-costed purple option with the main ability of deleting one of our Digimon, of course, because it wants to be deleted by anything but battle. And then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a level equal to or less than the deleted Digimon, which is going to be level 6 ideally. Then, if this effect deletes your Digimon with Ravenmon in its name, then we get to play a Ravenmon from our trash at the end of the opponent's turn without paying its cost. So, Ravenmon just seems to be kind of like this undying Digimon, or at least that's the style of approach it's trying to take, where we have alternative ways to be able to bring out our level 6 and keep bringing him out over and over again. Then the security ability actually doesn't activate its main, it just deletes the opponent's Digimon with the lowest level, which is pretty decent in terms of a security threat, because if they only have one Digimon out, then this is just going to delete that one Digimon. But if they do have more Digimon out and they are sitting on a floodgate, then this is going to try to snipe those floodgates at the very least. Next up, we have a new version of Terriermon to try to help round out the Alliance deck. So this is going to be another digger for the Alliance deck with the on-play ability to check the top 4 cards, which is pretty decent. And then we get to add one green 2-color card and one tamer with Henry in its name from among them into our hand. So it's looking for our tamer and looking for our Digimon. And on top of that, it has a pretty decent inheritable skill where one of your Digimon is suspended due to the Alliance ability. Then we get to Digivolve this Digimon into a 2-color Digimon from our hand by paying its Digivolution cost. And if we would do this, then we get to reduce the Digivolution cost by 2. So it's trying to make the fact that we're using Alliance and using other Digimon to evolve as efficiently as we possibly can. And then we did get a new tamer to go along with this Alliance deck in the form of Henry and Sue. So Henry and Sue is going to be a duo tamer in the color combinations of yellow and green, and it has the ability where at the start of our main phase, if we have one or less Digimon in play, then we get to play one Terrier or Lopmon from our hand for free, but that Digimon that's played off of this effect can't Digivolve, and it will be deleted at the end of the opponent's next turn. So it's just a card that's trying to help set up our Alliance effects, so that way we actually could use the Alliance mechanic. Then it has a nice secondary effect that's trying to help with the overall tempo of the deck, where during your turn, when you would Digivolve your Digimon with Terriermon or Lopmon in its Digivolution source, then by suspending this tamer, we get to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1 to try to make our evolutions as efficient and cheap as we can possibly make it. Next up, we got more cards that's supporting the Blue Flare Twilight combo that we saw last week. So last week we saw a lot of the Blue Flare cards, and we saw a card referencing Gaossmon. So, well, now here's Gaossmon. So he's going to be a level 6 that's going to be blue and black, and he has 12,000 DP and a play cost of 12, and can evo for 5, which is pretty expensive, on top of a level 5 blue or black Digimon. But he does have the on-play ability, which he's a Digicross card, so we want to try to Digicross him at the very least, where we get to de-Digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon, then until the end of the opponent's turn, all of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon can't attack. So this is actually a pretty decent fog effect to try to stop the opponent's low-level aggression, and on top of that, it has a nice all turns ability, where when this Digimon would be deleted or would be returned to the hand or deck, then we get to play a Metal Greymon and a DarkKnightmon from this Digimon's Digivolution source without paying their play cost. So it's just acting like the DarkKnightmons that we saw, trying to basically have this body that's going to spawn more bodies when it leaves the field, and it has the Digicross 2 ability where we have to use a blue Metal Greymon and a DarkKnightmon in order to reduce his play cost, but at most we're going to be reducing his play cost by 4, so he's going to be a card to hard play for 8, which is still pretty expensive, but stopping the opponent's attack and having an undying body essentially is still pretty decent. Next up, we got Missymon. So this new Missymon is actually going to support the Blue Flare deck, and he's a pretty decent card for the Blue Flare deck because he has this nice inheritable ability of on delete. If we control a Digimon, we get to draw 1 card, so we could paste the ability in combination with our Gaossmon to be able to play the Digimon, then draw because we played the Digimon. So it's just a good digitama for the deck to try to help us draw more cards. And speaking of Gaossmon, we actually did get a new version of Gaossmon, and this new version of Gaossmon is pretty good, also interacting with Twilights because, well, the ones in this set are trying to play around with Twilights as well. So during your turn, once per turn, when you play a card with Blue Flare in its traits, then we get to draw 1 card. So for Digicrossing and hard playing our cards and setting us up, we are going to be rewarded by drawing a card as long as this card's just chilling on the field, which is pretty decent. And then when you play a card with Twilight in its traits, then we get to add 1 card with Digicross condition from our trash back into our hand. So it even has the ability in combination with our Twilights to be able to grab back our Digicross Digimon to, well, use them again and again. And speaking of our DarkKnightmon stuff, we got the Twilight half of this Blue Flare Twilight synergy. So we do have a new version of SkullKnightmon, and this SkullKnightmon is pretty decent considering he has the on-play ability, where if we don't have a Nene in play, then we get to play one Nene from our hand for free, which is pretty good at being able to set up our tamer, which was one of the deck's huge problems, was it had no real way of being able to set up its tamer. Then it has a nice on-delete ability where it's just acting as some more consistency, where we get to reveal the top card of our deck. If that card is a blue flare or twilight in its traits, then we get to add it to our hand, otherwise it goes into our trash, with the inheritable ability of reboot to be able to best utilize our Nene to be able to give our DarkKnightmons the blocker ability, so now they're blocker reboot Digimon utilizing this card. Then, continuing with the Twilight support, we did get a new version of Deadly Axemon. So this new version of Deadly Axemon is trying to be a consistency tool for the deck, with its on-play ability of trashing one card with Blue Flare or Twilights in its traits from our hand to be able to draw two. So just trash setup and extra filtering through our deck is usually pretty good. Then on top of that, it has an on-delete ability that we just saw with our SkullKnightmon to check the top. If it's a Blue Flare or Twilight, we get to add it into our hand, otherwise it goes into the trash. And its inheritable ability is during all turns, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP to try to make our Digimon as powerful and effective as we can possibly make them. And then, of course, we needed a new DarkKnightmon to go along with the new Metal Greymon for Grey Knightsmon. So this new version of DarkKnightmon is still going to be a Twilight. He has the on-play ability where one of our Digimon gains blocker until the end of the opponent's turn. Then, if this card was Digicrossed, we get to de-digivolve one of the opponent's Digimon. And he has the nice on-delete ability where we get to reveal the top two cards of our deck this time, and then add one card with Blue Flare or Twilight in its traits from among them into our hand, and then trash the rest. So again, it's still just trying to help dig out our cards for when he gets deleted. Then he has the Digicross 2 ability utilizing Skull Knight and Deadly Axe, similar to the old one. So he's going to be a level 5 that hard plays for 4, which is pretty cheap and efficient for a level 5 Digimon. And then he even has a nice inheritable ability to use with our Grey Knightsmon, where during the opponent's turn, once per turn, if the opponent's Digimon attacks, and if this Digimon is Grey Knightsmon, then we get to change the attack to this Digimon. So it's just your classic redirect, allowing our Digimon to be as aggressively defensive as we possibly can. And then to round out the support that we just saw for all of these Blue Flare Twilight cards, well, we actually do have a Kiriha and Nene duo tamer. So this is going to be a green-blue duo tamer. It is going to be both the Blue Flare and Twilight. And on top of all of that, this tamer is considered as both a Kiriha and a Nene. So that way we could utilize it as best with both decks as we possibly can. Then on top of that, it has the ability where at the start of your main phase, if there are 2 or more Digimon in play, then we get to gain 1 memory for easy access at extra memory generation. And then its secondary ability, it just helps with Digicrossing for these decks, where during all turns, when you would play a Digimon with Blue Flare or Twilight in its traits, and it has a Digicross requirement, by suspending this tamer, we also get to place 1 card from the bottom of our tamers, and 1 card from our trash as Digivolution sources for the Digicross. So it's just trying to help us set up our Digimon as best as we possibly can. And then the last little wave of support that we got spoiled is going to be some more Gaiomon support. So we did get a new version of Gaiomon, and this new version of Gaiomon is actually pretty decent. Like the old one, this Digimon is also going to be considered as having Greymon in its name. It doesn't have any alternative Digivolution condition. Then he has a nice when Digivolving ability for, when we actually do go up into him, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 13 or above. And if this card effect doesn't delete any Digimon, then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack. So we either kill literally their biggest thing, or trash the top card of their security is pretty decent to be able to use him to devastate the opponent. And then it even has a nice secondary ability that's allowing us to play our old Gaiomon, where at the end of your turn, if we have a tamer in play, then we get to Digivolve this Digimon into a Digimon with Gaiomon in its name and a play cost of 13 or above from our hand without paying its memory cost and ignoring its Digivolution requirements. So that way we could use the old Gaiomon to be able to gain Blitz and de-Digivolve on the opponent's Digimon that we didn't delete off of the ability. So it's just a good card to use overall to try to form a new Gaiomon deck. And then we even have a new option in the form of Gaia Reactor. So it is a 6-costed black option where its main ability states that we get to select one of each player's Digimon with the highest play cost, and then we get to delete all other Digimon that are not selected. And then on top of that, its security ability activates its main, so it's trying to act as a pretty decent board wipe for our Digimon to try to 1v1 the opponent. And then the last card that we have spoiled this week is going to be one of the secret rares, and that's going to be Omnimon Alter-B. So Omnimon Alter-B is going to be a black level 7 Digimon, and he could Digivolve off of a black level 6 for 5 with 15,000 DP, or alternatively you could Digivolve for 2 on top of a level 7 with Omnimon in its name. So it's just a pretty decent card already with different ways to be able to utilize him. Then he has a nice when Digivolving ability where we get to de-Digivolve 3 on one of the opponent's Digimon. Then we get to choose any number of the opponent's Digimon whose combined play cost adds up to 6 or less and delete all of the chosen Digimon. So it's just trying to shrink the opponent's Digimon and delete it, so it's your stereotypical level 7 removal ability. Then he has a nice when attacking ability where by trashing up to 3 level 6 or higher from this Digimon's Digivolution source, for each card that was trashed we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers with the lowest play cost. Then if 3 cards were trashed by this effect, we get to trash the top 2 cards of the opponent's security. So it really wants to support this Alter-S deck as being the end finisher for that deck in terms of its evolution line. So that way we could try to use our Digimon to get into our Alter-S and then go from Alter-S to Alter-B to be able to try to make the most out of all of our cards. But yeah, that's all of the spoilers that we got this week. We got a lot of new cards and some new news, and I'm pretty excited to see where the game goes from here. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.